Good afternoon, everyone. Hope session is going okay for everyone. The conference, everyone having fun. See some smiling faces, so sure it has. So yeah, thank you for the introduction. My name is Sander, and today we're going on a data safari. Now, what is a data safari? It's basically a forced metaphor we'll be using because we don't know the ultimate destination we're going through. What we'll be doing throughout the session is basically just hacking our way through a sample data set and create some insights on our data. And why is that? Because basically in today's world, everyone's a data analyst. I'm guessing everyone in this audience is working on any kind of application or for an organization that sits on the top of data. How to get the best insights out of that. This is basically what this session is about. We'll be using a forced metaphor, so we'll also go in a bit deeper on the sample data set we'll be using. And then we'll just hack together some dashboards. We will also embed the chart at the end in a blog to show you the embedding example we saw in the keynote earlier today. And at the end, we also have 5 minutes of Q&A left. Of course, even after the session, you can always visit the booth for more information about MongoDB Charts. So let's get started. So you're at a MongoDB conference. Yes, we are a database. Yes, we know something about data. And yes, everyone is sitting on the top of data as we speak. And companies that make use of their data in any way to even get better decision taking, gain a better competitive advantage, these are the kind of companies that are winning. And it's not just the data analysts or the business analysts or some people from business who need to get insights on this data. It's actually anyone's job right now to just be conscious about the data they're gathering and how they can maximize the benefit of using that data for their benefit of their organization. So we could be like discussing each and everyone's unique roles and organizations they're working for, but basically what we're doing is we're abstracting our role today to entertainment writers. So for the next 30 minutes, we're actually entertainment writers. We have a director who's breathing down our neck, who's asking for the next big thing in entertainment to write the biggest, most attractive blog around. So we are an organization. We store data around movies, reviews, critics, etc. And yeah, we'll basically just have to come up with some insights to gain the best blog that's out there. So the data we'll be using will be hosted in MongoDB Atlas. I'm sure you're all familiar with Atlas, Managed Database as a Service. And the key thing here is that the data we'll be using is all MongoDB document data. So we're using rich document structures, arrays, subdocuments, and all the MongoDB field types that we are used to know, right? The sample data set we'll be using is called sample mflix. So it's Netflix, but with an M, because we basically took like a kind of a subset of IMDb related data. And we made this available in the Atlas user interface. So for the people who are not aware of this feature, maybe it's like slipped across your eyes. But in Atlas, when you create a Atlas cluster, you have this small drop-down button that allows you to load sample data. It's very easy to get started and just play around with Atlas. So give it a try when you spin up your next Atlas cluster. And this is an example of the documents that we'll be working in the next 30 minutes. So you can see these are rich documents. We have the arrays that are in there, like genres, languages, directors. These are all arrays. We have datetime fields, number fields, subdocuments like awards, IMDb. So these are very rich documents we'll be using today. And sure, there are many other visualization tools out there that can generate some reports or graphs based on your data. What we basically made is something that's built natively on top of this document model. And let's get started. So we're searching for insights. We have these rich documents we just saw an example of. What are we actually going to look for? Our director is breathing down our neck and we need to get some insights on this data. So we can start asking ourselves some kind of questions. And I prepared several questions for this session today. And we'll basically just work our way through a dashboard where we will create different angles and views on top of the data that we have. So let's get started, right? First questions are movies getting longer or shorter, movies getting better or worse, and what is the most common month to release a movie? So I'll just switch to my charts environment. I have an empty dashboard here, so let's start creating a new chart. First question is, are movies getting longer or shorter? Let's zoom in a bit so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. And for this, I'll use an area chart type. What I want to do is basically plot the year field against the movie length, and that's the runtime. You can see immediately I'm getting some values rendered. Now, by default, we can aggregate using sum, means, averages. I want to get the average runtime for a movie shown here. So this is already a first visualization. I'm okay with this. Now, there is a nasty peak at the start of this chart. And that's basically because some documents don't have this year field filled in. Because we're a document-based database, we're a flexible schema, so some documents just don't have this year field. Which means that I can just filter out the documents that don't have a field. And this is the most easy way to filter out these documents. And this is getting our first insights in our collection. So the average runtime of movies has gotten a peak in like the 1980s, 1990s, and then gradually decline. So movies are getting shorter. Something to write a blog about. So let's call this average runtime. But this is just a first insight, right? We'll just keep on hacking some charts together. Let's make this a bit better for the eyes. Now, I want to plot the average quality or the review of these movies as well. And the easiest way to do this is to basically duplicate a chart. We're going to duplicate the configuration, but instead of the runtime, we're actually going to show the Metacritic review. And again, I'm going to change this to the mean value. And this is actually the average quality of the average reviews of movies. Again, some insights around our data. We can see the review value of our data. The quality of movies is gradually declining over time. Luckily, there's like a positive twist to this, and in the most recent decades, quality is going up again. So, 2 charts created. I think we're 10 minutes or 5 minutes throughout the session. So we're actually going on a good pace here. What I can do, because these charts, they're actually looking quite similar, is also customize it a bit. I want this to be in a different color so I can clearly see that this is showing other information. So customization, changing the visualization of our charts can easily be done. The next chart we'll be creating is the popular release months of movies. And for this, I think a column chart will be the best way to visualize this. Similarly, I will drag the released field on the XS, and to get a count of something, I'll choose the _ID field, which is present in every document, to basically count the movies that were released in a particular month. Now you can see what's going on here. This is not a real useful visualization, right? Although a chart has detected that released is of the date time field, and it's binning on month, it's basically binning on month per year. So you're getting months for all the years that we have values for. To basically remove the year aspect from this field, you can choose a periodic field type. And this is actually what we were looking for. So actually now we're binning just on the month field of the year field type. Now, we have the same issue as before, some fields don't having the released attribute. And I'll just show you real quick how you can also make this check in the power bar. At the top of your charts user interface, you have a power bar that you can use to really influence the aggregation pipeline that gets sent to the backend. And in this case, we'll do a exist check. And basically now filter out all the documents that don't have this released field in their documents. Again, this is now showing some insights into our data. We can see that there's a real peak in releases of movies in March and April, probably preparing for the summer wave. And then before the end of the year, of course, Christmas season, New Year season, we're actually getting a real peak in releases of movies in the October month. So, release months is the name of my title. And kudos to us. We already have 3 charts created in just a matter of minutes, really. That gave us 3 different angles on the dataset that we are currently working with. Now, going back to the presentation, from real MongoDB Charts capabilities, what we've seen so far is basically number binning. So remember how the year field, we trimmed it back to decades. We've seen date binning, how we can remove the year attribute and really go on the calendar view on a monthly basis. We've seen the power bar or the query bar, where you can do filters and aggregations and all other advanced usage of MongoDB query language. And duplicating charts is really accelerating your charting efforts and how you create charts in the user interface. All right? Easy ones to get started, right? Let's carry on. Like, what country makes the best movies and how our movie genres changing over time. It's a bit more complex, but let's get started. So, what countries release the best movies? Let's use a bar chart for that. Then what we want to do is basically on the y-axis do the countries, and this is already a first observation here. So countries is an array field, which means it has different values. Charts ask me what's supposed to be interpreted here. There are many options here to work with arrays in charts. If you unwind an array, you will basically get a new document for each value you have inside the array. But you can also do additional things like the length of the array or a particular index within the array. But we'll choose unwind. What we then want to visualize is basically the number of movies. This ID again. And plot it against. Did something wrong here. This is what went wrong. So switch these ones around. What I'm showing right now is basically how charts can also work with complex queries, right? So what I launched in the backend is really a very slow query. I can limit this by basically asking charts to limit the amount of results. So you can imagine this query was slow because I asked for all of my documents, I unwinded everything, I sent everything over the line. So it struggled, you saw that. What we're showing right now is the movies, the popular countries where movies are being released at. But this is basically showing the number of movies. What we want to show is the Metacritic view. If we show the average value, this will give us another view. What you saw earlier was the number of movies that a country made, and you saw USA was number 1, Hollywood, right? What I'm showing now is not the number of movies, but the average quality of those movies. And you can see Hollywood completely dropped off the list, and the best movies actually come out of countries you wouldn't expect, right? But this is like a list view. We can do better than that, right? That's why in MongoDB Charts we also have something called a geospatial chart. Since we're working with countries, we can actually plot this information on a map. If we make this a bit more attractive and choose a real red-blue comparison, this is showing where the best movies come from. USA actually is average, so is Canada. Greenland has a better score, and the countries we saw earlier, like Congo and Mauritania, they're actually more prominent, visible on this chart. So getting these insights on the quality of countries or the quality of the movies countries produce is far better visualized and represented on a chart type or a geospatial chart type. So let's call this quality of movies by country. And we have another interesting fact for our blog to write, right? So just showcasing the geospatial capabilities. Let's go into the next chart we will create. How are genres changing in popularity over time? This is another chart type I'm going to demonstrate. What we want to show is basically how genres evolve over time. So what we want to do is basically go into the area chart type, and we want to show again how they evolve over time. So again, I will show decades on my x-axis, and what I'll show on my y-axis is the number of movies that are released. You can clearly see that more movies are being produced as of the 90s. It's just due to our sample set, right? We have 25,000 movies in our data set. We don't have a copy of IMDb here. But what we want to show as a series now is the genres. Again, genres is an array, so I could choose to only select the primary genre, if that's the first element of our array. But let's take all of them, right? Because a movie can have multiple genres. And yeah, this information is showing the right information, but it's not really attractive to the eyes, right? Because yeah, we have very few movies in the beginning, some very high at the later end of the spectrum. So what we can do here is choose the 100% view. And basically, when I filter out the non-existing year documents, like this, perfect. This is showing the information we were looking for. How are genres evolving over time? Well, basically you can see that drama has always been a thing. Like, it's been a constant genre that's coming back in over all decades. But you can see some things like romance gradually declining, short movies, they're actually off the radar, and many other things like westerns were very popular in the beginning of the previous century and then gradually declined. So there's a lot of insights we can actually get just by looking at this chart we just created, right? So what have we done? We've seen how MongoDB Charts is built on the document model, and working with arrays just feels natural, right? We unwinded arrays to basically just show all the information very naturally in our visualization. Additionally, we have created geospatial charts showing this information on the map, and the 100% stack chart. It isn't used for all use cases, but for some of them they're very relevant to show the relativity of your information over a certain time, for instance. Then off to the more advanced ones, like how many movies has Kevin Bacon, for instance, been in, and which one should I see? Would I see? Let's start creating that one first. So, how many movies has Kevin Bacon been in? Now, this is just returning one single information element, so there's a specific chart type we'll use for this. It can't be rendered on like a big area chart or a line chart because it's just a number, right? And that's why we offer this chart type number. And what we basically want to do is show a number. By default now it'll show that we have only 23,500 movies in our collection in total. But let's start filtering it. And you saw the filtering capability in the keynote this morning, so I'll basically do the same thing by dragging the cost field on this filter field. You can see it already pre-populated my user interface with just a sample set. This is not a finite list, right? So I will deselect everything and add the just one actor I'm looking for, Kevin Bacon. If I apply this filter, you can see that Kevin Bacon has been in 36 of the movies that we have in our specific collection. So let's save this one. Now, which ones should I see? This is actually building on top of the chart that we just built. So what I'll do is, again, make use of the duplicate chart capability and create a bar chart out of it. You can see it remembered that the underscore ID needs to be kept on this chart, but we want to now show the title of the movie. So you can immediately see the movies that we have in our database where Kevin Bacon has played a role in. But yeah, which ones should I see, right? With my family, maybe just by myself. So maybe the rated field is something we would want to show on our series. Now, when I just drag and drop this, this is not very attractive to the eyes. It now created a new row for each of our series. So we have a specific chart type to circumvent this. It's colored. If we now drag this over here, sorry, it's not colored, it's stacked, sorry. It's stacked, and if we move rated to series again, we now get a far more visually appealing representation of what we want to see. If we look at the rated fields, you can see that the first movie I can really go look with some parental guidance, right? So I need to be there with my children. Apollo 13 is the PG rated one, but basically all other ones, they're good to go, right? The R rated I would keep for just myself and my loved one. Again, let's limit these results to 10 and basically save this chart. Movies to see with Kevin Bacon. That's perfect. Keeping a good rhythm here. Which directors have had the most success at winning awards? This one is really complex. You might think it's easy, but it's not, and you'll see. So which directors have had something? So I need to show multiple dimensions in the chart I'll be showing. So for this, I think a table will be good. We can add multiple information elements in the table, multiple columns. So I want to show the directors as groups and show a row for each director. That's perfect. Now we have an awards field. It's a sub-document, and we'll basically just plot the nominations and the wins. Now, these are two separate values. That's perfect. So if I'm now shortcutting my thinking process, I'll sort it on the awards or wins, and I can see Steven Spielberg is actually the one who won the most Oscars. But is he really the most successful one? If you just count the number of wins, yes, he's successful, but how is his efficiency like? This is actually not good for Steven Spielberg because he missed out 912 times of winning the award. So we would like some calculated field in this. Now, there is no field I can drag to make this happen. So what I will now show you is how you can make use of this power bar to also include really complex aggregation pipelines. In this aggregation pipeline right here, we're actually doing the grouping for charts. We are grouping it on directors, and we are summing the wins and the nominations. But we are filtering out the ones that have more than total wins, right? Or we're keeping the ones with more than 10 total wins, and we're making use of the add fields operator. The add fields operator will now add a field called win ratio. That is a calculated field. It will give us like a percentage, right? If I now apply this, you'll see that on the left side pane, all my other fields have disappeared because we transformed our document in the aggregation pipeline, right? Which means that if I now drag the underscore ID, the field that we use as a group, so the director name, we can recreate our table with the fields that we have now calculated. So total nums, total wins, and the win ratio as well. Perfect. We can even customize this and let win ratio be formatted as a percentage, like this. Now, if we sort on win ratio descending, we can see that Alberto Negrin and Andrew Erin and all other directors at the top are actually very efficient. Like, they won all the time when they were nominated. Again, another perspective on how you can look at successful directors. So, successful directors. I really should learn how to type. Just like Karen this morning with full text search. But perfect. All right, what's next? Which leading actors generate the most comments and were their movies any good? I like this one. So I'll add a new chart, and what we want to see is basically the leading actors. So remember how we saw array operators in the previous charting example? Well, actually we'll make use of the same array feature. So from the cast, I will unwind, but use the first element of the array index, because the first element in our array is the leading actor. So I want to see the leading actor. Now what I want to see is the number of mflix comments that they have. So what I will now see is a grouped bar chart. I will again limit this to 10 because we have a lot of actors in our database. All right, this is showing us some useful information. So these are the leading actors that generate the most comments on the internet, like Adam Sandler. Who's seen an Adam Sandler movie? You can be honest. Be honest. Everyone has seen an Adam Sandler movie. But were their movies any good, really? And this is actually where we can use the colored bar chart. Because we also have a field, Metacritic, we can use the average Metacritic rating to basically also show what's the feeling about the audience around their movies. And I'll make this more in the face by choosing this color scheme. And although Adam Sandler was basically the most provoking and comment generating social media guru who generated the most comments, his movies were actually the worst. So I'd prefer just like Tom Hanks as an actor and like the social media presence. So let's make this chart like social media actors. It's perfect. I think we're like 20 minutes into the session, and we got a lot of thought-provoking charts being generated here, right? So let me just open this one up. Perfect. So you can see in charts, it's also easy to like recompose charts, resize them, and create a new dashboard of your own. So what have we just saw? So the filtering pane, the power bar at the top, this is really advanced usage of charts. It takes any aggregation pipeline, and we actually used it to completely transform our document, made some calculations. These are all sent to the backend, transforms our documents before they get into charts, which allows you to just visualize anything, basically, you have in your aggregation pipeline as an output. Number charts are very easy to just show information in your face. Now, think back at your own situation, at home or at work. Maybe this can be the number of tickets, the number of articles on your website, the number of incidents that you keep in your data. So always reflect back at your home situation, really, on how you can map these charts to your own organization and use case. The query bar aggregations, we saw data tables, very valuable to just show a lot of information at once in one visualization. So we went on quite a safari. We got some speed. I mean, I went through it quite fast, but I think that was the goal of today's session, to really show you the capabilities of all the different chart types and how you can use charts to your benefit to visualize the information you have in your particular organization or data. What I wanted to close off with is basically how you can share this information with the world. And world is really like also your colleagues and your team members and other departments in your organization. So I really split it up into two sections. So sharing charts and dashboards. First option, just share your dashboards with like people you know, email addresses, team members. You can put your organization into charts and just share it with your colleagues and just collaborate on creating and building dashboards and charts. The second option, we saw this morning in the keynote as well, embedding charts. And embedding charts really opens it up to the broader world. First option there, unauthenticated, the iframe, you can just move around and have the chart rendered anywhere you want. The second option, we saw it in the keynote this morning, verified signature, very secure, works in the backend, token verification, so you have far better control on how and where your chart is getting rendered. Now, I'll just do it and show it to you how that works. So this morning we went into the verified signature demonstration with Stitch and the token, and you've all seen that, right? Let's just now do the unauthenticated one. So you've seen both of them. It literally is iframe code you can use and paste anywhere you want. I have this blog I want to launch, show my director like, hey, this is the new blog. I just started it. Let's view the new article I just launched. It'll be very popular. Tweet it right now. It'll break the internet. The best movies don't come from Bollywood or Hollywood. What countries make them? The answer will surprise you. Well, this is the chart that's showing it. So I literally just embedded the chart on this blog, blogger.com, right? And embedded this chart. I can do this with any chart. Now, the cool thing is, if I go back to this embedding wizard, you can just turn it off and existing embedded charts will stop working. So basically you can control this active or not active state of your embedding just from your charts environment. Additional security options are also there. So basically you have permissions on your dashboard to allow people to consult your charts. But equally there is security on your data source as well. So there's really a two-key mechanism here to turn off or on the access to your charts. You can do it on the data source, you can do it on the dashboard and the charts, and a third one, if you choose to embed it, is even in the embedding wizard to turn it off and on. So there are multiple layers of security you can apply to control where and how your charts are getting visualized to end users. So just to recap here, MongoDB Charts. MongoDB Charts, you've seen it work on rich documents. So any MongoDB application or database you have, all complex it may be with subdocuments and arrays and rich document structures, it'll just natively support that. So there's no data movement or duplication needed. So traditionally we had people like offload people from Mongo into expensive SQL warehouses and transform it in all kinds of ways. It's no longer necessary. There's no more ETL involved. We just worked on our live copy of the data, right? Working on the live copy of our data, yes, but there's also support for workload isolation, which means that you can have charts run against analytical nodes. While your transactional workload is still being handled, you can have your analytical workload being targeted at the read-only copy, and Charts natively supports that. And last but not least, I've shown you Charts hosted as a service next to Atlas. It's very easy to get started. Suggest you just create a free cluster, and Charts is just there. Using the sample dataset, you can just get started in a matter of minutes, really. But it equally works on-premise. So if you have on-premise MongoDB deployments, just download Charts. It's a Docker container. Just spin it up, and it'll connect to your MongoDB, and you can have the same experience you just saw during my session. So data is growing. It's everywhere. We're all sitting on data. It's multiplying. Make use of it. Charts is the best way to visualize the data that sits in MongoDB, really. We've seen it work in a matter of minutes. You can embed charts, share charts. There's support for different chart types as well. We saw line charts, bar charts, geospatial, table, number. I can keep going on and on. But there are multiple ways of visualizing your data to get the best insights in that, right? To make your data come alive. And last but not least, yeah, we saw in the last visualization that Adam Sandler may be the most popular actor around, generating the most content, but don't watch any movie of that. That was my session. I took you on a safari. It went relatively fast, right? I raced into the creation of charts, but that had the goal of like really sharing with you how easy it is to create charts. If you just get a hang of the look and feel, the self-service portal. You can just create these visualizations really fast on top of your own data, of course. It's easy to get started. Just sign up on Atlas, matter of minutes. You can always visit me in the Atlas booth and the Charts booth in the reception hall, and that's it for the session. I'm available for Q&A right now, or at the booth later on.
Here we go. 1 second. And I have to run over. Who had a question?
Hi. Could you use data lakes as a data source?
Not yet, and it will go relatively slow as well, because data lake, as you've seen in the keynote, it attacks as 3 buckets, of which the latency is a bit slower than having it in an operational database like Atlas or a MongoDB cluster.
And the second one, on the chart that you embedded, there was a powered by Mongo right under it. Is there any way that could be removed or changed?
Yeah, CSS maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's there. It's by default.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Here we go.
Thank you for presentation. My question is there any way to have live charts, like having the chart updating each time you have an update in the database?
That's an excellent question. Let me go back into charts. It's a capability of the dashboard itself. So when I open my dashboard, I can have my dashboard refresh automatically. So when I auto-refresh settings, the least granular we can go is refresh every minute. So it's time-based. We can't refresh the chart every time an update happens, because we can't really predict the number of updates and writes that happen.
Yep.
It would get crazy in certain circumstances.
Oh, it makes sense, yes.
So we can refresh an entire dashboard every minute. So it's very popular to just have this dashboard, full screen mode, big screen, developer room, with all kinds of popular charts showing the active users.
Is it propagated also for iframes that you embed on the blog?
No. You'll have to do the refresh of the iframe itself in JavaScript or whatever.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. I'm going to run over to the back.
With the aggregate pipeline use in the power bar, are all aggregate pipeline stages and operators allowed and available, such as lookup, or are there some limitations?
Well, I have good news for you. You can define these aggregation pipelines as well on the data source. So if you go to data source, and this is a brand new feature, it's been inside charts just for a couple of days or weeks. You can basically now have this aggregation pipeline being applied at the source. So yes, you can do those lookups even at the data source level. So having this transformed document already at the first stage. So have a look at this data source aggregation pipeline.
Okay, we have room for one more question. Here we go.
Show a user a graph and they immediately want to customize it. Is there any scope for individual users doing that without having access to Atlas or an API to do that or anything?
It's on our roadmap to create an API specifically for charts and use case that you mentioned right now. At the moment, all charts creation and modification is done in the charts user interface. What you can see as part of the roadmap in our Jira we have online, you can see that the next functionality we're working on is saving the state of a chart as an export in order to import it later on. And this is just like the first iteration we're doing on creating a real API on top of charts.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.